Okay, you can just zoom in. Do you have, okay, can you talk about the which scenario you have it?
Dimple, I think you are on mute. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
So it's 8 characters that includes one upper and one special.
Okay,
The positive scenario.
Okay, positive scenario, 8 characters, one uppercase and one special character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so you want me to read all the steps, or you want?
Yeah, can you just expand it? Your just maximize it. There is a arrow there, right? A little bit at the top. You can, yep, yep, on the right side. Come down right side. Yep, yep. Nope. Just before deployment, if you come there. Yep, there you go. Yep, just click on it. It will expand to the whole screen. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Dilip. Yeah, you are saying something.
I'm just like it's reading through her. So you're logging in as rfrep and looks like you're trying to create a dealer user. Okay. All right. So you're going to home page, logging and then logged into the system, creating a new user with the dealer user type. A new user form is displayed of dealer type. Okay, so couple of things, Dimple. If you look at the user data in the data entity section, right? What you talked about it is dealership ID here 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
Shouldn't that be a part of a precondition that the dealership should exist before in the system?
Because here we are creating a new dealer.
No, you're creating a dealer user. You're not creating a new dealer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
it should be before that.
So your dealer shop, either you create it beforehand, or it should be in the prerequisite that it should be there.
Yes, yeah, it should be there.
Second important thing that you might have overlooked into that data section is there is an active, inactive flag.
Yes.
Right? Did you understand what it is required?
Just give me a second. Let me go to the page. Yes, so there is an active flag and other is user flag. So the user flag is required. It is the one which is required.
Right. So you may have to identify
Okay.
that, because without that being inactive, you will not be able to log in into the system.
Okay.
Right. The other thing is kind of I'm also trying to think is yeah, so you're saying your username is going to be the last name concatenated by first name. Is that the rules?
Actually, I forgot about that. I think it was the first alphabet of last name, something like that. So I was not sure, so that's why I just put the last name and then first name.
Okay, so typically look into the requirements document or in the design document within the data entity, and it will tell you how it is computed. Okay, but other than that, it looks on the right track.
Okay.
Just I'm not sure whether you captured all the required field for creating the dealer user, but I think it's logically you got the concept right.
Okay, and Dilip, here on the entity users table, so here is one of the columns that is dealership ID. it's asking, so dealership ID for the user required for dealer user type. So here this is asking for the dealership ID. That's why I have mentioned in step 5. But as you told, because it is already, the shop is already within the system, so it should be already in the precondition.
Right. You
So-
still have to mention the dealership ID here, right, while
Okay.
creating it.
Okay.
But what is
Okay.
the guarantee the dealership is already exists with that ID 1234?
Okay.
If it doesn't, you're not going to get that an option to select that information,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So that's why the dealership has to be present. Because think of this way, right? Logically, you're trying to create an account for somebody who is working at that dealership.
Yes.
You can't do that unless the dealership exists in the system,
Yes. True.
right? So if you scroll down, what else you have for parameter values? Okay. Okay, I see it. So I think for most part you got there. What I would recommend is now that you have access to the system,
Mm-hmm.
try to do step-by-step this instruction
Okay.
and see if it matches what your expected results are.
Okay.
And 2, if the steps from what you're seeing is a little bit different than what's in the system, then you need to see it, what changes you need to make to your steps to reflect what it'll be, right?
Okay. So while I will try on the actual system. So how would I make sure that there is a dealership ID that already exists in the system?
You have to create it, right? So you
Okay.
have to, that's where the
Okay.
precondition comes in play,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Again, right, based on the spreadsheet that or document that Harshal has given you, I
Mhm.
don't think your RFREP user ID and a password is right either. Validate from there. But I think it's
Okay.
logically you're in the right direction.
Okay.
So the data field that you put it in step 3,
Mhm.
that's not accurate. You just need to look at the document and fix it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Anyone has any question on what Dimple has put together here, other than what we discussed? Anybody is not clear, we can talk about it then, how she came up with these logical steps.
So I have a question here. So
Okay.
as Dilip just mentioned that we have to create the dealership ID in the system. So could you just explain like how we supposed to create it in the system?
So that goes back to dealer management function, which talks about how do you create a new dealer in the system, right? So either you want to put it as part of the precondition that this particular dealership already exists in the system. And I believe you have a whole bunch of dealership already part of the system. So if you look into the document that Harshal had provided for, I believe it's in page 3 on the PDF document, or if you have a physical copy, it is the 3rd page in the 2nd section of the file, which clearly laid out what all are users, what type of users, what are the dealers, what are the RFREP user account, and so on.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't put it in precondition, then you can add the steps for creating a dealer. And then you start with that and then log in with RFREP, what she has, and then try to create a user and pick that dealership ID, whatever is generated in the earlier steps. So that way it is, you don't have to worry about whether it exists or not.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Harshal, in the document, the dealer users, you have mentioned 3 dealer users. They are dealer users, not the like dealer shops. Is that correct?
Dealer user is an actual employee working at the dealership. And so it's more like a, you have a company, right? German Toyota.
Yes.
But again, so that needs to be set up first.
Yes.
So that's what we are talking about, and they will
Yes.
get a dealer ID, some type
Yes.
of ID in the system. And when you create a user, you pick the same ID
Okay.
or say same dealership to
Okay.
associate that user with the dealership.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other question, I guess, on this test case? Does everybody has a similar thing? I'm assuming. I'm hoping
Yeah,
some.
kind of. But in the fifth step, she has written everything in the fifth step, like user type and first name. But I have written in the summary. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
yeah.
As long as you have test data somewhere where you are referencing it. Now, the reason in the tool, right? So when you execute it,
Mhm.
you don't see summary section when you execute in the Azure DevOps.
Oh,
So you might have to look at that, open the test case and look at it to see what test data you put in the summary.
okay.
The good thing about putting in the steps, you will see right there.
Mhm.
You can type it in or put it in as an attachment, like an Excel file or Word file or text file even,
Okay.
and attach to the particular step.
So here we have to create the dealership first. If we mention it in the precondition, like the dealership already exists, like German Toyota,
Right.
then we can directly use that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can use that. Yep.
Okay, so I did in that way. I directly used that, but I didn't mention in the precondition. So
Okay. Yep. So then you have to update your precondition at that
Yeah.
point in your
Mhm.
test case.
okay.
Question. So, the German Toyota dealership, it's already exists in the system. And then where can I find the dealership ID for this dealer?
There should be some ID assigned to that.
Yeah, if you look into dealership profile or view dealership information, there should be an ID in there.
Okay, on the website.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
application itself. Yeah.
Yeah, there
Okay.
is a SOP ID. Actually, it is called SOP ID in the
Yeah.
system. In the entity, if you look at it, it's a SOP ID.
Mhm.
It's not called a dealership ID or dealer ID.
Okay.
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 All right.
Yeah.
And no other question, right? Anybody else? Everybody's good. Hopefully, you guys understood what we are talking here, and you can revise your test case accordingly. Dimple, you can stop sharing. Okay. So let me go back to the other homework that we had. We had two requirements, new requirements. We can start with the loan calculator requirement and see if anybody drew a test scenario tree or came up with the test cases or basically or broke down the requirement and came up with that. Anybody want to take a shot at it?
I have done it.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and share that.
Oh, I have not taken a picture of the scenario tree. Like,
Okay.
is it okay if I turn on the video and
Why don't you say it here and let me just
Yeah.
draw it up for the students, everybody, so that we can see it. Hang on, give me a second. Let me go and share my screen.
I have a question for the previous requirement.
Sure.
So when I created that requirement, the first requirement which Dimple showed us,
Okay.
in that when we create the dealer user, so when we create the dealer user, do we have to use the dealer entity from the dealers or the users? Because I have used from the users. Does that make any sense?
Can you repeat your question here?
Yeah. So when I have created the dealer user,
Okay.
I have created from the design requirement from entity users,
Yep. Okay.
not from entity dealers.
No, so there are two aspects, Purvangi.
Okay.
One is all the information that you need to put it in order to create a user type,
Mm-hmm.
that has to come from a user entity.
Okay.
But one of the field that is in there is, hey, if this dealer user needs to be associated with some dealership,
Mhm.
and how to do that association, or what data that you need to put it into the form in order to do that association, that's what Harshal and I are talking about, the shop ID.
Okay.
Okay, so all the information is in the user
Mhm.
entity itself, but you need to understand how it relates to the dealership.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
So Harshal, if you may share the design document and
Yeah.
user entity, then maybe that can help them in terms of getting clarity.
Let me go and open that up. Okay.
I think it is in section 4.2, yeah. So this is the dealership,
Lenders,
outlets,
yep.
lenders.
These are dealers.
Go one about user entity. Yeah, see, right there, right there.
Yeah. So this is the starts here. So I'm
Right.
just gonna
So
do that.
if you guys look at it, or she'll keep scrolling down. Right. So right there is a dealership ID, right? Dealership for user, and it says it's a required field for dealer user type, and it's number. So when you look into the dealership ID, so now if you scroll it down to dealers entity, the first
TI.
one is shop ID. That
Yep.
shop ID is same thing as a dealership ID in there.
Yep.
Okay. So you need to, if you are saying that in precondition, right, that dealer XYZ, which will be matching the name here in the dealer table, if it exists, then what you need to do it is you need to get that shop ID data and use that to populate the information about the dealership ID. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So if I don't say that the dealer already exists, then I have to create the dealer.
Then you have to
and
create the dealer, get
and
its shop ID, and use that into the step when you're creating the dealer user.
okay. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You think of this way, okay? If you're making a pasta, right? One of the ingredients you require is sauce. Either you say that I have sauce ready, then it's good, then you use that sauce. If
Mm.
not, you have to actually put the instruction to create the sauce also, right? Same way, the relationship between dealer and dealership, I'm sorry, relationship between the dealer user and a dealership, it's similar to that. You can't make the dealer user unless you have a dealership already exists in the system. If not, you have to create that first, and then you create the dealer user.
Okay. All right. Hopefully this clarifies for everybody. Okay, I see that Shruti, you sent me the test case. So let
Yeah.
me see if I can pull that up here. It's not showing up here. Oh, it's in the sandbox. Probably, let me go and open it up again.
That Herschel, it was in inbox.
Yeah.
You were in the sandbox.
Yep. Okay. Oops. Maybe I shouldn't be clicking anywhere. All right, go ahead, Shruti. See what you have, if you can explain.
So here, I like took the scenarios of it calculating the right loan amount for us and one invalid loan amount, like what if it comes up with a negative amount or something, and what if some data is missing while calculation of the loan payment.
Okay.
All right.
So like I have not mentioned the formula here because I've mentioned the formula only in the test case.
Sure.
Okay, so let's talk through it, right?
Hmm.
So when you say some data is missing, let's focus for a moment on that particular leaf.
Yeah.
What all data you think you needed? In what scenario that particular thing is going to be kicked in, or how are you going to test that?
Like here the time is already mentioned, like 60 months. Like interest, if I thought like while giving the information like interest, if they have missed giving the interest percentage or something, then the data will be missing and it calculates
on.
the loan.
Hang on. So did you look into anywhere in the requirement which says that here is the input data is going to be the interest rate?
No.
Okay, so what you're talking about, it's probably outside the bound of what user was thinking in the requirement.
Okay.
Okay, so when you say there are certain data is missing, you need to go back and say, okay, what are the input data that I can potentially put in?
Yeah. So like I have written as a time, amount, and interest on the side.
Yeah, so time is already given
Yeah.
to you, 60 month,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the amount, right,
Yeah.
is the field, and the other one is interest, right?
Yeah.
Do you know if the interest is a required input?
No.
Okay,
But-
so then you need to think about is what else is required input if it's only the amount. So in this case, what you're talking about is I have a loan amount,
Mm-hmm.
right? Again, I think it's the wording here needs to be a little bit careful. When you say it's your field
Yeah.
is valid load amount calculated, well, it's not based on output results. Remember, all the test cases is going to be based on the data or the condition that you enter in the system,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So most likely it's going to be is, hey, I'm giving the principal from which I need to calculate the installment.
Yeah.
Whether it's a valid or invalid number, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is what you just said is it's not necessarily calculated, but it's only valid load amount, invalid loan amount,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I came up with that test tree. First, I came up with 3 leaves like amount, term, and interest. Then I came up with there are 2 more, like everything is correct and the loan amount is calculated. Other scenario was like 1 or more is wrong or missing and invalid loan amount has been generated. Then I
Yeah,
thought,
but
like, what
think
if the
about it,
data is
right?
missing?
So your definition of invalid loan amount is what?
What if it gives the negative amount, which is not be happening?
So, okay. So here's what I want you to think about logically, right? If an amount is coming out a negative,
Mm-hmm.
one of the 2 possibilities, either your data is wrong,
Yeah.
or 2, your calculation in the system is wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How are you going to create that condition? That's what you have to think about it when you put the leaf.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
So-
I gave you guys a formula, so I'm not sure why you need to worry about the interest rate and
Yeah, like I have written it down, but like
Okay.
I used it only in the test case, like not to validate the load calculated case.
So that goes back to the other thing. If your requirement is different than what you think the inputs are going to be, which in this case, Harshal has given you formula and not the 3 attributes that what you're looking for it,
Mhm.
right? It's a clear indication that, hey, your test case is not grounded into what the requirement is.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I mentioned, all of your test cases has to be grounded into the requirements,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
You cannot use your assumption that, hey, I think it should be this or it should be that.
Yeah.
Now, think about it like it's when somebody's entering a loan amount, you can just say, hey, there is a valid loan amount and there is an invalid loan amount,
Yeah.
right? A, can you enter an alphabetic character for a loan amount? Yes, no,
Mhm.
right? So if it's a loan amount, it's technically it's only a number,
Yeah.
right? So what if somebody gives you a non-numeric entry into that loan amount field? That's invalid data. And can you generate that? Sure, right? Can you test it with that? You can, right? So I think it's while your leaves are directionally correct,
Mhm.
but your thought process in terms of how we're going to create those conditions
Yeah.
is not right.
Okay.
Maybe we can draw it up here. Is there anybody else have a different one? Or you guys think of anything else here? How would you validate this
Harshal,
requirement?
I have something different.
Sure. Okay, go ahead, Dimple. You can talk about it.
Okay.
Just talk about it
Okay.
because I think
Sure.
she has certain scenarios, but it's not complete.
Okay, so like before giving my thought process, I just want to like confirm the requirement. Like as you want me to like on the loan calculator, but you want like you want a developer to calculate the total repair cost on the loan calculator, or he is going to do that manually and directly put the loan amount.
No. So think of it. What is the requirement? Let's read the requirement.
Yes.
What is the requirement says?
So
Read it out loud for me.
Okay, need ability to calculate loan payment based on predefined calculations.
And what is the
Right.
pre-refund calculation that I gave you guys? You guys remember?
Point. Point
0.03
0.
amount.
So monthly payment, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Monthly payment
Point-
equals 0.03% of the loan amount.
Yeah.
So that formula trumps the whatever is in the requirements, 60 months. It automatically considers that in the back end. It is built on the 60-month and whatever interest rate they had predefined as part of that. Okay.
But in
Okay.
the like credit application and document, design document, so there are columns like repair cost. It says it should be auto populated.
Again, you are going into different things, Dimple.
Okay.
Okay. So this requirement purely talks at if I have an amount that I need to take a loan against it, the system should be able to calculate based on that amount how much is going to be my monthly installment, right? So requirement says need ability to calculate loan amount based on a predefined calculations, right?
Mm-hmm.
For 60 months. So all it just says that if I give you an amount, you should be able to tell me what is my installment amount is. So using the formula that Harshal has stated, right? If I put into the system as $1,000 is my loan amount, it should come, your monthly payment is 3% of $1,000, which is $30. And that's what it should show up,
Okay.
right? So you're expecting system to calculate, but as a user, they will provide, here is the loan amount. Now, what you were talking about, Dimple, is service charge, this charge, that charge. All I care it is, what is the total amount? Now you can break it down, that total amount into different pieces for my customer. It says, hey, it's going to take like $50 for fixing things and add 7% of taxes. It'll take 10% of the service fee. And that's why the total instead of $50 $50 work and the total amount comes out to be $59 or something like that. Okay. So then what you do it is you take that $59 and then use that and says, okay, if my loan amount is $59, because that's what I need to fund for, what will be my monthly installment?
Okay, so but in the credit design document, it says it is like pre-populated.
Design document is going to talk about, if you're looking into data entity,
Mhm.
that talks about what all pieces of data it's kind of stored. But it doesn't, this step, it's not about what data is stored. This step is
Okay.
about how I'm going to calculate what it will be.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So go ahead, Herschel.
Okay. So I guess just building on what Shruti had. So obviously the data missing one is not kind of like a valid one, right? That's what we agreed on. Data missing. It's not a valid scenario here because I'm not sure what data is missing and how you're gonna validate that anyway. Now, how would you test? I mean, so you have two leaps here: valid loan amount, invalid loan amount, right? Those two items. But is there anything else that you can break down further? I mean, from the testing standpoint?
Yeah, under valid loan amount, once we can put the whole number and then we can put the decimal value.
Okay, whole number. Okay, that's an integer or whatever. And here is a decimal.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else with the valid loan
Zero.
amount?
Okay, so okay,
Actually,
let me hold on that. Yeah, so whole number and decibel number. Okay.
Okay.
What else?
I did. Can I talk?
What was that, Gipti? Can you repeat that?
I did if loan amount is more than 0.
That's
More
the
than
same
zero,
same
right?
thing as the whole number, right?
Whole number, right? So this one is more than zero, this amount.
Okay.
Okay.
So what about the invalid loan amount?
Less or equal to 0.
Maybe the alphabetical, which will
Okay.
be invalid,
So
negative. Yeah, maybe
non
less than 0.
non-numeric.
Yeah,
Okay,
non-
second is negative.
Mm.
Less than zero. Okay.
Okay, what about anything else on the invalid side?
Infinity.
Say that again.
Infinity.
I think Gifty,
Infinite.
your voice is coming
Kilo.
with a lot of disturbance. It's very hard to hear what you're saying. I don't know if anybody else is getting the same.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Spatial characters invalid.
Well, so can we just say it's non-numeric, and that covers alphabetic and special characters too, right?
Non-numeric. Yep.
So anything
Okay.
which is not a number. Okay. Anything else? Can I click on calculate without entering any numbers, and what should happen?
So no data. Is that
No
what you're
data.
saying?
Yep.
Now that if that's what you are referring data missing, Shruti, then
Yeah,
it could be
yeah.
a valid at that point. No data is data missing.
Yeah, that was what like I thought of
Okay.
coming up with the.
Sure. Okay.
Now, for a moment, right? Let me ask a question. What will be this 3% of a zero?
0.
Is that any different than if I put some number? Is that valid calculation when I say it's 3% of 0 is 0?
Yeah, 3% of 0 is 0.
Okay,
If
so,
I write 0, they will be 0.
right. So do you think the valid loan amount leaf that you put 0 is any different than the whole number?
Can you repeat?
So if you say that like it's, hey, 0 is a valid number,
Mm-hmm.
even in the context of my formula, if I put a 0, my
Mhm.
monthly loan amount was going to be 0.
Yeah.
Is that a valid number? And if so, do I have to think about two different conditions like 0 and a whole number as two separate, or they are one and same?
I
Yeah.
think it's the same.
Same.
Did everybody get the question? I think Shruti, you are saying the same, but everybody understood what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you guys think? Are you in agreement with what Shruti is saying, or you disagree with her?
Agree. I agree.
Okay.
So like that is what I had written in my test leaf, that like it should be positive round number or the decimal.
Okay. So what you're saying is that like let's collapse under valid loan amount, Herschel, the two leaves on the left-hand side, that they are one and same.
Okay, so these two are same. That's
Yeah.
what you were saying, 0 and a whole number, right?
Right. Yep. Okay. Now, when you look into the data field for the loan amount, is it a number? Is it a decimal? What it is? Where I'm going is, in some cases, you may think about the two scenarios, but if the system accepts only the whole number and not the decimal, then you may have to think about where you put the decimal amount as whether it's a valid or an invalid.
So, Dilip, I didn't get where we have to
So-
check which entity.
So within the data attributes, right? Or this is a clarity question that you need to ask to the business users if it's not sure. Can they put a decimal number for the loan amount? Or is all the loan amount and the calculated numbers are all whole integers only?
Yeah, the requirement doesn't say, so it's kind of like a missing requirement from that perspective. Generally, they should allow the decimal number and the whole number.
Okay. Are you guys with me and Herschel of what we are talking about?
Yes.
Right. So
So-
is my valid loan amount could be $100 or $100.10. Are they both valid scenarios? If it
So-
is, then the way that you have put the tree here, it's perfect. But if the requirement says that, hey, it should be a greater than 0 number, then $100.10 is not a valid scenario.
Now that brings up another point, because you have the invalid loan amount scenario where you are saying non-numeric alphabets. Should they exclude the dots and commas from the decimal, or should decimal be, obviously it needs to have dot, but does it also have commas? Will that make it invalid? Those are some of the conditions you need to think through in that scenario, in this scenario here. And I asked for clarification.
Right. So what Herschel is saying, 1,000 is at 1000, or it's 1,000.
But here in the scenario, like nothing like down payment and everything comes into picture, right? Like just asking.
there is no down payment, right? It's a total loan amount. What loan
Yeah.
amount I'm going to
Mhm.
borrow?
Yeah. So we don't have to worry about that part, right?
No, you should, because I could be taking more than $1,000 for my car service fixing. So I could be taking a loan more than $1,000.
So Dilip, in credit entity, so there is mortgage amount and the data type is decimal.
Mortgage amount.
Yeah, something about mortgage.
I think you guys are confusing the entities section with the data here. I think those are two separate things.
Okay.
When we are talking about the test cases and test data, that has nothing to do with what we are storing in the database or the
Okay.
backend. So those are entities. What we are storing in the backend, that's entity. But when you talk about the test case, it has a test data. So here, what could be our test data when we are going to test this loan amount, loan calculation functionality? And that's where this whole number, decimal. So what values you will supply, you need to think it through from that standpoint. Do I supply 1,000? Do I supply 1,050? When we say non-numeric alphabets, should I just put ABC in there? Or can I put -1,000? That's the invalid scenario as well. And what should system do in that scenario? That's what you are testing. That's what you are validating here with the valid and invalid loan amount. It has nothing to do with what you are storing in the back. Does anybody have different understanding, I guess?
I have a question. Who is deciding the loan amount? Is the dealer or the? I was thinking it depends upon the cost of repair of the
Yeah, so who will determine the cost of repair?
dealer.
Yeah, a dealer meaning, is it dealer company or you are talking about dealer user who is employee of the dealership?
Yeah, whoever like the customer comes there and like he.
Yes, it's an employee, right? So it's a
Yeah.
person who is standing at the counter, the service rep.
Yeah, so the employee decides the repair cost and.
So they will get the estimate from the internal team. Now system is not handling that part. How they come up with the estimate, it's outside the scope of the system. Because there is no way we are saying other than putting the final amount and the certain repair amounts in the system.
Okay.
So, but how they are getting it, it's nothing to do with the system. So it could be somebody's experience and they are judging it based on that, what it would cost to repair this car.
Okay.
Right? Because we don't have anywhere in the requirement that says this is how they should be estimating the repairs and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay. But once you have the final number, how would you calculate the payment? That's what this requirement is about.
Right.
It's a one line, but again, now you need to wear the hat, see how the user is doing it or how user will do and what type of scenarios they could do potentially. That's what we are trying to figure out here. Like, can I, as a user, can I enter $0 and see how the system behaves? Because some of the system might crash, who knows, if you enter negative amount. So that's from the tester perspective, you need to come up with all these different things.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question or comment on what you have? Now, if you don't have the scenarios right, I'm not sure whether you guys have the correct test case for testing it.
Yeah.
So if you are writing the whole number scenario here, how would you write your steps? Just as a general discussion. Can anybody explain how would they see for the whole number?
I would say, Harsh, I'll see if anybody has written that test
Yeah.
case. Then share it with us, because I think that was one of the requirement was write a test case for that too.
Yeah, I do have the test case.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, but hopefully you guys understood the different scenarios. We came up here, and now you just need to use every leaf, 0, whole number, decimal, alphabets, no data less than 0, and come up with a test case for each of those leaves.
But I don't have all these leaves written.
That's fine,
Done.
but hopefully your scenario will fall under one of these leaves.
Yeah, I have the
Right.
whole number.
Okay. Okay. So let me do one thing. Let me stop sharing, and you can go ahead and share. Okay. Leela, can you expand this your screen by clicking that? Yep. No, just come down a little bit. Just that one more little bit down. Little bit down. Yep. Now you see that. Yep. Click on that. All right. Okay. So you have a precondition dealer account exist in the system. Now loan amount available. So that's what you are testing. So hopefully, I mean, so you don't have to put that in a precondition here. New loan calculation link existing formula available. Yeah, those. I mean, if you put that in over there, I mean, you are assuming. I mean, you're not assuming, but you need to have those things available. Without that, you can't execute your test case.
Right.
So you should take those things out, except dealer account exist. Basically, that will go away from the precondition from that standpoint. Because without it, those are requirements, right? Formula is part of the requirement. So it needs to be known. Otherwise, you can't write any test case.
So I don't need loan amount.
Yeah, the only thing you needed is the first precondition, which is dealer account exists in the system.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Now, it's not technically a dealer account. It should be a dealer user account, because that's what you're going to use it.
Oh, okay.
The login, right? That's what you are using. G training. It's a dealer user, not the dealer. I think terminology is a little bit confusing, but what is a company versus employee? Okay. So I see that step number 3, you are signing in as a dealer. Then
That
you are
should be
going to the
user.
dealer user. Yep, you can correct that.
Okay.
Then going to the number 4, click on calculator. So that's the navigation. Yep, you can include that in the step. Dealer inputs the loan amount 2,000 and click calculate button. Calculated loan amount displays. Okay, so I think number 6. You said that, so that should be the validation point. It should be expected result when you say what is in step number 5, right?
Mhm.
You said you inputted 2,000.
Right.
The system will calculate, but what are you validating? So that's number 6. Actually, step will go into the expected result of step number 5.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then you don't need step number 6.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I see your scenario is almost there. Now, post condition, you don't really need it because you are not changing any behavior in the system. So you don't need to write. It is expected that otherwise it will fail your scenario. So,
Okay.
yep, I think this test case is very simple, but the thought process on breaking it down, coming with the different things, what you need other than this loan amount. Now, if you really look at the other lips, what is changing here? if you look at the other test cases for the same loan calculator, what would change in your test case,
The loan amount,
right? That's the only thing. And what else will change along with the loan amount?
the loan payment.
Well, rather than loan payment, right? Your expected result would change.
Yeah,
Because if you enter the negative amount, what is that you are expecting?
yeah,
Are you expecting negative $60 if you enter negative 2000? Or you are expecting to see system will show you some type of error message or something,
yeah, system show error message.
invalid loan amount or something,
Yeah.
right? So that expected result is the only thing. That particular line will change. Number 6, everything else should remain same
Okay,
in your other test cases that you can write.
okay.
So Harshal, in this test case, in the 5th step, there is 2000.00, right? That's a
Yep.
decimal value.
Yep. that is
So
correct.
when we create the test case, do we have to create the decimal, the decimal thing differently? I mean, different test case for the decimal values?
It's
Yeah. Go ahead.
again, right? Depends on. This one looks like it. What Leela assumed it is the decimal number is a valid number, and that's how she is created. So it all depends on how you're putting your test cases and how you're interpreting the requirements. If you say that, hey, it has to be always a whole number only, and I can't put any decimals, then as soon as I put the decimal, it should give me an error message saying that please don't enter that, enter a whole number. That
Yeah,
could be the possible scenario.
Yeah, so that's a clarification, right? I gave you guys that decimal is a valid number to input in the system.
So in this case, if the decimal number is also valid, then in that case, do we need to write the different test case because they both are same?
Well, technically they are not same,
Okay.
right? Because one is allowing you anything other than the number. So the developer may have implemented just the number and not the
Okay.
decimal,
Okay.
or vice versa. So that's why you still have to test both of those conditions.
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully
Right.
everybody is clear, I think, on this one.
So Herschel, what I want to do is I want to actually talk about now the second requirement that you had
Yeah.
given it.
Yep.
Right. The calculating the dealership franchise number.
Yep. Okay. So Leela, you can stop sharing.
So has anybody did the tree for that they are ready to share?
I
Yeah,
have done. It might be wrong too.
That's okay.
I can also share.
Okay, go ahead, Vaibhavi. Is it Vaibhavi or Paurangi? I'm not sure.
Purvangi.
Purvangi, okay. Yep, you should be able to share Purvangi.
All right. So
So you have, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
So for the franchise number, we have 3 things. One is auto-generated state digit and county.
Okay.
So we have created like state name is given and county name is not given, and then auto number is generated like
Okay.
that.
So the calculation is given to you, right? In the requirement, 2-digit state, first 2-digit of county and 3-digit auto number. And then you have the dashes. So that's how the franchise number should be calculated
Yes.
based on whatever data is inputted for that. Now, where this requirement comes in the picture? At what point the franchise number is assigned?
When we create the dealership.
Okay, so when we create a dealer, right? Okay, all right.
Okay. Now, for Wangi, I'm looking at the leaves, the 6 leaves that you have drawn in.
Mhm.
Remember, so I want all of you to go back to the thinking that what I said, right? All you should worry about when you're creating a different leaves is what is the input you're giving it and what is the output condition, not the output that you're generating. So in this case, right, you have integrated your inputs with what is expected results. So for example, right, so if you look at the leftmost leaf, right, where you just say, hey, state name and county is provided, and I'm able to generate the auto number, right? So to me, that translates to that, hey, I've provided both the input, which is the state and a county information. That's it, right?
Yeah.
The auto number is generated. That's your expected result in some step in the test case,
Mhm.
right? So you should not worry about putting that because it muddies the water. Because if I look at it, right, your third leaf, which says state name is not provided and county is provided, auto number is generated. To me, that contradicts to the requirement. Requirement clearly says that the only time I can generate a franchise number is if I have all 3 pieces of data. And one of the data is system generated, which is 3-digit auto number, right? So that means I'm going to enter 2 pieces of information is the state and the county. But your case number, like leaf 3 tells it, even if one of them is not present, I'm still able to create successfully. And same thing is for your test number 4.
Yeah. So Dilip, I haven't written that this is a failed test, but it's a failed test.
Again, remember, you have to clearly identify what is the distinction, right? So this one, when somebody looks at this leaf,
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand which one is the positive case, which one is a negative case,
Okay.
right? And there are 2 conditions that you're writing it. To me, that should never occur in the system, right? I should not be able to auto-generate a number if there's certain sets of data is missing.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then again, the step number 5, which is on the right side, the bottom one, which says state name and county is provided, auto number is not generated. Again, I don't know what exactly that scenario and how you're going to simulate that scenario. Right?
What were you thinking, Paurangi, at that point on that one specifically?
Yeah, so I was thinking like someone has written the state name and county name, but because of the system, the auto number is not generated.
So is
Like-
it, so that would be the other way of like, so your first scenario will fail and it will produce that condition, right? State name and county name provided, but auto number not generated,
Yes.
right? So it's kind of like a fail condition for the first one. So it's kind of like a duplicate from that standpoint as well. You don't need to have a separate scenario just to, because I'm not sure you can even replicate that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's what it is. It's Paurangi, what Harshal is pointing out is the failure of the first test case.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's essentially an outcome of the test case that you're trying to put it out.
Yeah,
Number 5, yeah.
I understood.
So has anybody else has written anything different? Because what I want to do it.
I have.
Okay. Go ahead and share it, Dimple.
Okay, I think it's you guys are getting the process right. It's just a matter of nailing it down
Oh,
on your inputs and structuring it all together.
I think it will improve as you get to work on more different variety of requirements. Because that's what I think you just need to keep putting a little bit, keep working through other type of requirements, so that you understand how this thing you can handle, come up with the scenarios and so forth. Yep. Steps are steps. They are pretty much straightforward once you understand the scenario.
so here I have 5 leaves.
Dimple, we cannot see your screen, that particular one.
I think the only thing we are seeing it is the email with
Email.
the Zoom numbers.
Okay, so actually it's a picture. I take the screenshot.
Yeah, but if you can stop sharing and share that whole desktop, I think that will show us the screen.
Can you see it now?
It's coming up. Let's see. It's not yet, not there yet.
No, I think it's something is not right. So unshare it, Dimple,
Okay,
and reshare the whole desktop, which will be the top left option in the Zoom when you try to share it.
like first I will click the share screen.
Yep, and then it'll give you a whole number of windows, and then go
Okay.
ahead and select the top left option in there, which is the whole screen.
Selective it's like, do I need to select a window?
Yeah, you have to select the window and click OK.
Or click share afterwards.
It's still something wrong. Your desktop is not getting shared. Do you have, by any chance, 2 monitors?
Yeah, I have, but it will take some time.
No. I'm just saying is that your setting is preventing it. Go ahead and share the app that has that picture.
Actually, I just I take the picture and shared it on the WhatsApp, and I'm just opening the WhatsApp and the picture over there.
Oh,
Maybe-
WhatsApp. Okay. Why don't you just email me, Dimple, from
Okay.
WhatsApp? Just email me that image and I'll share it from here. And you can stop sharing. Let me know once you email it.
Actually, can I? Okay, just give me a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. I got Shruti's email, but not yours. So let me see. Yep, got it. We go and share it quickly. Hopefully you guys can see it now. Okay.
So Dimple, what is the difference between the first and a second?
The first one is like this. When the first time I will enter state and county, and second time the system may have the same state and same county. Like in that case, system has to update the 3-digit number. Did you get
Okay.
my point?
So the existing one. Okay. You are
Yes.
talking about
Okay.
existing state and county combination.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So The third one is system has no state, no county.
Okay,
And then there's
no state but county, and system has no state, no county. Has state and okay. So you are just using the different combination afterwards.
Yes,
okay.
So those are negative ones that you are trying to test, I guess.
yes. Like first two, these are the positive ones, and
Right.
the other three, they are negative.
Okay,
Okay. So you can just say it that way. Now, so between your first two, which is the two leftmost, which is positive conditions. Okay. Do you see it any difference between, hey, I have first time entered that combination, right? Versus I already have one entry, or I already have 4 entries with that. So is one existing entry versus 4 existing entry, does that make any difference in your mind?
Okay, the system is going to auto-generate the number, so in that case, I won't need to bother about that if it already has that combination or not.
Okay, so then why that's any different than I'm entering the combination first time? Because I'm still generating, either it's generating number 1 or I'm generating number 5. It's
Yeah,
one and same, right? The system should be taking care of that.
yes. Yes,
Right.
yeah,
So in those cases, do you still think that those two
Mm.
should be as separate conditions?
no, no.
Okay. So Purvangi,
Yeah.
did you understand it, the difference between the 6 test cases you wrote it versus the 5 that Dimple has it, but then we collapsed one? So how she focused only on the input criteria and let the result determine whether it's a failed or a successful test cases.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got that. But I'm still thinking about the second leaf of Dimple. The system has some state,
Well,
some county. I didn't get that.
so to me, it should not matter whether it is the first time entered or it is the 5th time. System is going to just generate one number, right? So they both are one and same cases.
so we have German Toyota in Ohio, Franklin County. And then we have Tansky Toyota in Ohio and Franklin County. Okay. So if you create this guy, you might get whatever OH FRA 001 based on the calculation that you are given. So 2-digit state, 3 digits from county, and then the number. Okay. Now, what happens to the Tansky in the same case? So if you are having a setting up a second dealer in the same state of Ohio and Franklin County. So that's what this second test case addresses. So it should generate something like OH FRA 002 in this case. Now, if the third dealer comes in, it should be 003, 004, and so forth. That's the only way you can see it from these two scenarios here.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, Purvangi, and that's why I say it, from your viewpoint, whether it is the system is putting 001 or 002 or 003 should not matter. All you should just say it is, if the precondition is that there is already a dealer exist in that state and that county, then it should pick whatever the next sequential number is.
Yeah, that would be the scenario. Yep.
Right?
So,
If a one condition on that one is, hey, I have kept the data such a way that it doesn't exist, then it is still, I'm adding 1 to the existing, which is a 0. next time I'm adding 1 to the existing, which is existing was 1, and I'm adding 1 to it, so it's 2, and so on. So do you understand it? Why you can still collapse those two and still it's a valid one case?
Yes.
Somebody had a question, I think. Somebody was asking question.
Yeah, like, so as a tester, do we need to check if, like suppose I am just writing both of the first and second leaves, if I mention both of them as a one, and while testing, I will just check it once. So do I need to cross check? Okay, like now it says it's 4. Now do I need to check if it's doing additional right? If it's the next time I will enter the same state and county, is it give me the next number? So do I need to check that?
Yeah, you need to check that, right? And that's where your precondition is going to play a key role into it.
So,
Is what should be the condition in the system
mhm.
with your state and a county?
So that's why I have put this second leave. So this will be the precondition.
I understand, right? But what I'm
Okay.
saying is that that's to some extent it's a redundant. You can
Okay.
still keep it those two separate. That's fine.
Okay.
But all it is this additional data aspect of it. That's what you're trying to refer that, right?
Mhm.
Because when you look at logically, what system does it is whatever the number of dealers that present in that state and that county, I add 1 to it. So if there was no dealers present, when I add 1 to it, it becomes a first number, which is your first test case. If there was 2 dealers already present and I add 1 to it, it should come 3. Okay, so unless I clearly outline what is the precondition is what number of dealer I am in this county, I cannot guarantee what the results or what the data is.
Okay.
So
Right.
Dimple, again, yeah, go ahead, Dilip, finish your thoughts.
So in this scenario, right, as long as you put the right precondition, whether you do both as a separate test or you do it as a one test, it is one and same. You're just doing a redundancy. So one of the characteristics that I was talking about, the test case should not be redundant. That's where it kicks in here.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, again, there is no right and wrong answer, Dimple.
Mhm.
What makes sense logically? Because everybody thinks differently, right? So, I mean, if for in your mind, I mean, if you think it's better way to write 2 separate, then go ahead and do that. I think that should be okay in the real life as well. But as Dilip pointed out, I mean, it's kind of like redundant, but if it makes clear to you, then go ahead and write 2, which is okay. Nobody gonna bother. As long as you are able to test the functionality, that's the goal here. So
Okay.
it's just a documentation purpose. This thing is kind of like a technically documentation that you will produce.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So anybody wrote a detailed test case here? Anybody wants to review theirs? Whatever they wrote?
Yeah, I did if someone has wanted that.
Okay. Other than Dimple, anybody else wrote this one?
Yeah, I did, but yeah, I did it.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I also did.
Okay. Gipti, you want to share yours?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go ahead and stop sharing.
All right. And then where do I go? I'm lost. Hold on a sec.
Sure. You send me the URL. Maybe you can get it from your email.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
that's
There
it.
you go. Yep.
There I go.
So which scenario you have it?
Mine is quite different.
Okay.
Okay, 2 or more dealer users.
I think it's the dealers, right? So we are talking about dealers only, not the users. In this, because franchise number is assigned when you are creating a dealership or the companies in the system.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So I see that you are trying to create a dealer user. So I
That's
think
what
this,
I'm-
this one would be, yeah, incorrect steps here. You probably
Incorrect.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because you're supposed to create the franchise. It gets created when you are setting up a dealer in the system,
Mhm.
which is a company,
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm,
which is
sure.
fine. I mean, so you are trying to validate something, but you just had a different
Level.
thought process there. Yeah.
Okay.
But you understand, right? What needs to be corrected here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to create a dealer and then assign appropriate data and see what is being generated once you save the information.
All right.
Then you can do the second one and see what happens. If you supply the same data, what happens at that point?
Mm.
If you supply different data, what happens?
Yeah. So mine was
Okay.
wrong.
Yep. Anybody else has it?
So we should use it as a super user who is going to create the dealer.
Anybody, you can use any user who has access to dealer, create dealer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be super user. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and you should be able to use the same security table that we talked about is who is authorized to do a dealer management function,
Yeah.
because creation dealer is part of it.
Okay.
Yep.
While creating the test case, even I have done the same mistake. Like I have used the dealer user instead of the dealer.
I see. Okay. So you can correct that as well, Leela.
Yeah.
Shruti, did you write the steps?
Yeah, like even I have gone wrong there. Like I have
Oh, I
used
see.
the dealer
Okay.
user instead of the
Okay.
dealer.
Alright.
I have written the step.
Yeah, go ahead. Share that if you have it. Okay. So you are using the site manager account here. Okay. Then signing a site manager as training and training. Okay. You can scroll down, Leela. Access create dealer page. Dealer page opens. Create dealer with dealers information. Okay. So those are the minimum set of required information. Hopefully you looked into the entities data section and figure out that part.
Yep.
Kind of like what is required and so forth. Okay. So you are assigning area manager. Okay. Check the franchise number created 2-digit first digit. Okay. Now here, one thing missing is what is that you are expecting for the franchise number. So you are saying what franchise number successfully created, but what is supposed to be? That part is missing here. So you are supplying Ohio, Franklin.
Mhm.
What should be the franchise number based on the calculation that you
Oh,
have given?
okay. I should write the outcome.
Yeah, you should write the exact outcome. This is what is expected.
Okay.
And I think one thing we talked about, what if there is already another dealer which exists in Ohio and Franklin County? Then what is your outcome in that scenario?
Oh, I should add that too.
Yeah, that could be a separate test case, or you can have it. So again, goes back to the Dilip's conversation. Dilip mentioned you can put it in the precondition. There is no other franchisee or franchise dealership exists in this particular state. Yeah, it's the first time you are creating any dealer, or there is already 2 dealers exist. Now you are adding a 3rd dealer in the same state and county combination.
Yeah. Also, Leela, I think it's when I look at your step number 5 and 6,
Mhm.
take a look at the expected results. In both, you're expecting a dealer is created, whereas in reality, only the step number 5 is where the dealer is created. And step 6, the expected result should be is whatever that number.
Yeah.
And you're matching that number meets it.
Okay, it's a calculation. So you have to come up with what should be the expected franchise number, and system
Yeah.
should produce that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I
it-
got it.
And post condition should not be that it successfully tested the calculation, because
Mhm.
that's a system thing. What you need to look into it is what is the state of the system, which is that particular dealer now exists in the system.
With this franchise number. Yeah.
Okay.
But otherwise, I mean, yeah, I think you were on the right track here with the dealer at least on the dealer side. Yeah. I think in the previous test case, you had the same thing, similar thing. You did not put what is expected, like what is the actual loan amount, right? Same
Okay.
thing here. What is actual
Okay.
franchise number?
Yeah, now I got it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there anybody has question here? Anybody think differently? Yeah.
So in this one, like how we are going to test like this franchisee number is created? Like, do we need to go into the database and we will check what is the franchisee number?
A couple of ways you can do it, right? You can search for the dealer again in the system and see if it has a right franchise number.
Yeah, so for that, what I did, so after step number 5, I mentioned a new dealer is created.
Okay.
With the dealership ID.
Okay.
And then with by using that dealership ID, I try to create a dealer user.
Do you
Ah,
really need to
okay.
create the dealer user?
Then because I don't have access to the database to check the franchisee number.
Well, that's where the whole understanding of the requirements document comes in place, right?
Okay.
Don't you have somewhere a requirement that, hey, I should be able to search dealer by dealer name or some additional criteria?
Okay.
Or by like franchise number or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I would recommend, and this is just a mindset, okay, is don't create anything more than what you needed to validate that test condition.
Okay.
So here is my contention, Dimple, into the path that you're taking. While it's not wrong, A, is it necessary? And 2, what if you're able to successfully create dealer, but your dealer user creation fails? Now,
Okay.
is your test case successful or failed?
Yeah. In
And
that case,
what functionality failed?
okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So your validation steps, as long as possible, you should always try to do non-destructive operations.
Okay. So like we did for the password one, we created the new user and then we log.
You just logged in, right? You didn't
Yeah.
destruct anything. You just still
Okay.
validated.
Okay.
So don't try to create or delete something in order to validate the
Okay.
that certain condition is met or didn't met it and expected results. You see
Okay,
what I'm
so-
saying?
Yeah, so just to verify the franchisee number is created successfully, so do I need to mention the steps? Okay, then you go to the search.
Yeah, that
Okay.
you definitely need those steps, but those steps will be undestructive, right?
Yes,
Because all you're doing is reviewing and reading it.
okay.
So hopefully, Leela, those things make sense, right? How would you validate?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that part, I think Dimple has additional steps to validate that,
okay.
which you can put like a number 7 and number 8, and then have your post condition afterwards.
Okay.
So kind of like a search dealer with that franchise number, and if it shows up, that
Yeah.
means franchise number is good.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes some of the other aspect is also, it's if there are system generated numbers, typically you will get some sort of a message which says that, hey, I created dealer successfully with this ID or this franchise number, right? So sometimes validation may be just visually viewing what information that was presented back into the screen. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, again, as Harshal pointed out, that may be deceptive because they may generated everything right, but then failed to persist in the database. So if you use what Dimple was talking about, explicit steps for validation, then you can guarantee not only it was kind of displayed properly, but I was able to go and search it, that particular number. So now I know that it exists in the database also.
Okay.
Dilip, can you please repeat the last?
So remember, like it's the dealership, right? If it's created successfully, it may display a franchise number
Yes.
on the screen. And then you can go back, and if one of the search criteria is, hey, I should be able to search based on franchise number, I can just put that franchise number and search on it and see if results shows up or not.
Okay.
So sometimes you can use the same information that was provided to you as a successful creation step
Okay. So
for
what if,
searching.
okay. So what if, I think you already earlier mentioned about the same, like what if the system search criteria fails?
Well, again, if the system search criteria fails, did you change anything in the system?
No.
No, right? Versus if your dealer user gets failed for whatever purpose, there are chances that some data might have been corrupted in the system.
Okay.
So again, rule of thumb is for validation, use a non-destructive validation format.
Okay. So if the system search criteria fails, and then what should I write?
If
but this-
system search criteria fails, you can always try alternate ways to find it, right? Because search
Okay.
criteria is, hey, you can search by franchise number, or you can search by dealer name, or you can search by address, right? So you have multiple pieces of data that you can use it to see it, what is going. Because the goal for your test is not to validate the search functionality. It's to
Okay.
validate the franchise creation functionality.
Okay. If none of these will like work, then I can go to the database. I
Right.
can do some.
Right. In
Okay.
those scenario, you don't even have to, you fail the test case.
Mhm.
Said, hey, look, I couldn't validate. I'm not saying that it may not be created, but I couldn't validate that data,
Okay.
right? Because at that stage, I would not come to a conclusion whether it was created successfully or not. All I'm just saying is that I couldn't validate if it was created successfully or not. So I would fail test case in those scenarios and then move forward.
Yeah, let them figure out what's wrong with it, because your job is to find the issues in the system, and the developers will have to figure out why you were not able to find it if it was saved.
Right. And as Harshal pointed out, right, there is no right or wrong, right? It's the same thing you can accomplish 3 different ways.
Dilip, you said something about the step 5 expected result.
Yeah. So if you look into the step 5 and step 6, your expected results are one and same, right? So
Yeah.
at what point dealer is getting created? Is dealer getting created as a result of step 5, or dealer is getting created as a result of step 6?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So can we write in the expected fifth step, like dealer is created with franchise number, and then write the franchise number there?
Yeah, that's what it's going to happen in real life,
Okay.
right? And then step 6 should be the validation step. That, hey, can I search a dealer with that franchise number? If yes, then it's good.
Okay. So I think everybody's hopefully it clarifies a lot of things for you guys, today's exercise. And you can correct your test cases if something is incorrect in yours. Again, it will never be perfect. So don't worry about perfection. I mean, as long as you are able to put down the right thing, that's all it matters in the real life as well here.
So I have a question. So
Yeah.
let's say like if we have a two dealers in this one, in this case, so we have to create as a different step and we have to show in a different step. So
Two dealers. So
So-
you create first one, you are creating second one. Is that what you are saying? Or
yes.
yeah, I mean, if you are testing that scenario, you can write it. I mean, as we said, I mean, either you put it in precondition or put it in the steps. Instead of saying
Okay.
this dealer exists with this county, in this county and this state, you are just saying, hey, I'm creating two brand new dealers and those numbers should be sequential.
Okay. Okay, so we have to show in the steps as well, right?
I mean,
It
again,
depends
it
on your
goes back.
precondition.
Yeah, depends on
Okay.
the precondition. I mean, if
Okay.
you feel comfortable writing everything in the steps, go and do that. There is nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
Instead of putting in precondition, I would suggest you put down create dealer
Mhm.
first, second dealer, and see if the number is being generated is unique and sequential as well.
Okay.
Dilip, I have a question about the precondition thing. Like as a QA, when we are actually doing the task, like this is just the documentation part where we will do the actual testing. So the precondition steps is someone else who is going to create all those data.
No. So it'll be majority of time. There's very rare cases that somebody else will create the data for you.
Mhm.
It's you who have to create the data for you.
Okay. Okay. So
Okay.
either we write all the steps in the test case or
Or
we
you create it.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times, right? That's where it comes in, is you write all the test cases and then you put them into the order in which makes sense. So for example, right? So if you're like it's want to create a dealer user creation functionality, right? You
Mhm.
can always create or run the dealer creation step first. Now that will
Okay.
create the data about the dealer. And then you can go as a second test case right after that to create a
Mhm.
dealer user.
Okay.
So now successful test already created data setup for you that you can then go ahead and use it in the second one.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And,
mean,
and if you're not doing in that order, then you will have to do one of the two choices. Either you need to go out of band and create the dealer in the system using whatever the UI is available to you, or you need to write a SQL scripts to go ahead and create that dealer and information directly in the database.
yeah, that's the most preferable approach, writing the SQL scripts, because then what you can do is once your test is complete, because you might have a lot of junk data created, and if you're trying to run it again, you might run into issue. So what we do is we wipe out the database, restore, and then run the script again, so that you create some base set of data, only the
Yeah.
base dealers, logins, and certain things, and then you run your whole regression test again on that.
Yeah, a lot of times, right? And again, this is not necessary as when you go in first time as a brand new QA that you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Once you are comfortable with the database, a lot of times the normal practice that I kind of use it is for every test, I have a precondition setup steps, then I do it test, and then post-condition wipeout steps. So I'll run the database scripts to create whatever the data I needed to validate the precondition.
Mhm.
Then I'll run the test. And once I'm done with the test, and if test was successful, I'll go ahead and run the script to automatically delete every changes that I've made it as part of the test case.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I can run that thing over and over again without impacting it.
Yeah, again, it requires some experience on your part, Dimple. But those are some of the practices that you have to follow
Mhm.
in the real life.
Okay.
Yeah, it helps with the automation as well, because automation, you are just running it with a click of a button and you are probably executing 500 test cases. And if it's done within like a 10 minutes, how do you, if you run again, it's our database is messed up. So you have to clear out before you run it. And then you run again 500 test cases again in another 15 minutes. That's where it comes handy as well with the automation. Okay. All right. Let's see. So I think those are the parts of the homework that we wanted to review. Do you guys have any question, or do you like us to review anything else that you have produced?
Should I stop sharing, Harshal?
Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing, Leela.
So we have one test case.
Okay, what about it?
Just give me a second. Let me find the one which I'm talking. So not. Just give me a second. Yeah. So after the credit application is submitted, system shall notify lender via email.
Okay.
So in this, we did two cases. One is valid email address, another is invalid.
Okay.
And under invalid, so one case is that like the email address mentioned in the database is wrong. Doesn't exist.
Okay, you mean assigned to the lender or dealer?
Yes,
That does not exist. Okay.
Yes. Other is it belongs to someone else.
Yeah.
So while writing the test case by invalid email address, yes.
So help me. So from your functionality point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's invalid or belongs to somebody else,
Yes.
what is the final outcome?
So
That I do not get the result. I do not get the notification, right?
Yes.
Because that's the outcome. So to me, yes, you can write both of the test cases as a different test cases to do an exhaustive testing.
Mm-hmm.
But the minimal required testing is that, hey, that email address is not correct from the point of view of me as a lender.
Okay.
So when a dealer submits it, I don't get notification.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
Okay. Okay. Now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any clarification or anything? Anything you guys like to review from your standpoint? Today is the time. We can review it. We still have another 20 minutes. So. Did everybody got a handle on the tool, Azure DevOps?
Yes.
Okay, it's a pretty
Yes.
straightforward tool. I mean, the tool is not
Yeah.
that complex, right? It's not much work. It's a repetitive process in the tool to document. That's all it is.
Now, one thing I would advise it, right? Because remember, like it's all of you have written so many test cases. It's a good to practice it and get as many test cases as you can in the tool. And then also, Harshal has given you the URL and the credentials to log in, right? I would start executing the test cases. I would start understanding it and readjusting my test steps accordingly to make sure, because that's also a practice that you need to get used to it. Now, there is nothing new here, right? Because you already know how to build the trees. You already know how to write each individual test cases. So just keep, the more you will practice it, the better you will get it.
Yep.
I
Now-
have a small doubt.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Shruti.
Like whenever I saw the test cases now in the DevOps, like now like whenever like someone has presented here today, I saw the details provided, like all the details provided, and they also give the expected results and actual numbers or something. Is that really required in the test cases in the DevOps app or tool, or is the
No.
general cases okay?
It's your practice. I would. So remember what we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
If you do not provide a specific pieces of data,
Mhm.
I have no way to validate whether things works or not, right?
Yeah.
So if you just say, hey, valid franchise number is created, well, what does that mean,
Yeah.
right? Is it 001? It's 005? What exactly it should be created? So you should always provide specific details.
Okay.
Now, when you're discussing things with your peers or your classmates, you can talk about a little bit genericity. But before you execute, you better start having a specific data in detail, because that's the only one which is going to tell you clearly whether the test case pass or fail.
Okay, because like I got this doubt because in the test cases, like in the Word template, when we started writing the test cases, we just like wrote like log into dealer. But here in the tool, we have
Yeah, but see, the difference there was log into the dealer using credentials in the test data section, right?
Yeah.
Now, this tool doesn't have a dedicated test data section.
Okay.
So as Harshal said, there are two places where you can put it. You can put it into the step
Yeah.
explicitly,
Mhm.
or you can put it as an attachment along with the test case.
Or in the step, every step has
Yeah.
attachment as well. So you can,
So-
if it's a big one. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
so pick whichever way you want to put it, right? And a lot of companies will have sort of soft guidelines and says, this is where you put the data.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying system allows you that flexibility, and you just follow whatever the standards or patterns that you want to do it.
Okay.
The key thing is to provide that data as part of the test case. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else?
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Gipti.
I tried to execute one of my test cases,
Okay.
and the first step, enter URL.
Okay.
I copied it, and then open another window trying to open the URL.
Mhm.
Nothing came up.
So what URL are you using? The latest one that I sent you in the email, or you are using from the book, which is the old URL?
From the book.
Yeah,
That's
so
not correct.
that is no longer valid, that URL.
Okay.
So use the one that I sent in the email. I think you should have that in the email. If not, let
Alright.
me know, and
Okay.
I'll send you again.
I do have it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's rflown.azurewebsites.net. That's the
Okay.
URL. Okay,
So I have a small question.
sure.
So when we create the dealership account, there is a dealership county and we have to write the county, right? But when we see in the dealer entity section, there is a dealership county, but in the required section, there is no Y.
Okay, so it's not required. That's what you are saying,
Yeah.
right?
So it's up to us that we need dealer county, and we just have to take that part and assume that it's we
I
have
think
to write.
it's a clarification point. They could be the system design document is wrong. So because they are not marking in the required in the back end, but they might have logic in the front end to make sure it is input, because it's needed for the calculation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something you can clarify with the developers or business as well. I mean, not developers.
Yeah, so I think it's, as Harshal pointed out, right? That fails your 3C NNT test. To me, that information is not consistent, and that's where you should go back to business user and said, hey, you required this information in order for me to calculate the franchise number. But in order to create the dealer user, that's not required information. So do you want it or not, right? If not, then you understand it, that dealer franchise number, it's going to fail half the time to create it. So my creation is going to fail. So some logic needs to be applied.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
now think about that, right? So in that particular case, you could simply catch that information way early in the cycle just by reviewing the requirement. Versus if it was implemented and you now just say, hey, you know what, it fails because system doesn't enforce that required data.
Okay.
Okay. So it looks like everybody's silent. So I'm assuming nobody has any more questions. Then I think we can call it a day here, and we can regroup on Saturday morning. And as mentioned, I mean, we'll be talking about new things on Saturday and Sunday, both days.
So what I would recommend is now make sure you bring your laptop from now onwards, every session, because we've been started using the tools. Okay.
Yep. All right, then see you guys on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.